Today I'm gonna show you how you can make a flying chess pieces effect inside of Blender. We're going to use rigid bodies and deactivate gravity. This is gonna be a very cool effect and very useful for many use cases. So just stay tuned, follow along, and let's get started. As you could see in the beginning, I was doing my effect inside of my actual living room. If you want to do that too, you need to record your video and track it inside of Blender, but we're gonna skip that part. If you want to see how to track your footage, make sure to check out this video, because this is where I'm gonna go through this entire process of tracking, compositing, animation, everything. But in today's video, I want to skip all that and just get to the meaty part of doing the animation of this cool telekinesis effect. So here you can see my tracked footage. It's all perfectly aligned, and where this little solid is, this is where my chessboard is going to be. Now, first things first, we need a chessboard. I'm using Blender Kit right now. You could be modeling your own chessboard or whatever you want to make fly around. I'm gonna use a chessboard. So I use Blender Kit for that. So I just can type in chess, open this, and I use this one for the previous effect. Now I'm gonna use, let's go with this one, why not? So I'm gonna just place it right here. And that's kind of cool. I like this chessboard. It basically reminds me of, I don't know, like retro, like the kind of chess boards we used to play chess when I was a kid. Yeah, I learned how to play chess when I was like 3. It was good times. If you don't know how to play chess, I highly recommend it. It's a fun game. And when I was 3, I played with my dad and I won. Now I think he actually let me win. I always thought I was a genius that I won chess when I was 3, but nope, I think he let me win. Yeah, but look at those chess pieces. They have actually lots of detail. I like that. It's gonna be a cool effect. So anyways, when you import your model, it's just important that first of all it's like perfectly in the right position, like here, but because I don't want to see the chessboard underneath. And also I want to clear it of all parents. Like right now it's like parented to this. I don't want that. So I'm gonna hold Alt P and keep clear and keep transformation. So now I can just delete this part. Now before we get started, I want to make sure that it's actually working properly. So what I'm going to do is start the effect. I'm going to use my chessboard here and give it a rigid body effect. You can find it under physics, rigid body. That's what we need, and this is one is going to be passive. This piece here is going to be an active rigid body. So I'm going to go in rigid body again, make sure it's active, and the economic soul is fine. Now I play it. It looks great. It just falls, drops as it should. Amazing. If something wouldn't work properly, if it just falls weird or something, like for example, I bring it up here, I rotate it a little, give it a rigid body effect again. Now I play it, and then if it didn't fall normally, like organically, and something would be off, what you need to do is for every single piece and everything you have a rigid body effect on, go on Control A and apply all transformation, or even make instances real, or even apply visual geometry to mesh. Select those few things for every single piece just to make sure that all the pieces are actual real objects. This is important. Anyways, let's go back to this. So my first job is I don't want the chessboard to be like that. I want it to be like, okay, someone was already playing and then it started doing this telekinesis effect. So I'm just going to play chess against myself for a second here. So this one is going to be here. This is usually my first move when I'm white, and I also, you know, going to rotate it a little and making sure it's like not perfectly in the center, so it just looks like organic. Let's say black is playing for a second here and here, and let's go with, this is horsey. Horsey goes like this. We can even have horsey here and made 2 moves. Maybe this one tried to block him, and again let's rotate them a little bit. It probably does not have to make sense, so if you don't know the rules of chess, it should be okay, but I recommend that you look up the rules and again learn how to play chess, because it's a great game. I haven't played in a while, and also the last few rounds I played I always lost, so I guess I got a little rusty. Anywho, cool. Now I played against myself. Who's winning? It's hard to say. The design of those chess pieces are actually, I'm not a huge fan, but because it's like hard to say what is what. I mean, I would be able to tell, okay, this is like this tower here. I would not be able to tell this is like the horsey. Now the real magic has to happen. We have to turn on the rigid body effect and all of those pieces. But before we do that, we do need to model this table for two reasons. We need reflections and shadows on this table also, and that only works if we have a shadow catcher. And also I want those pieces to fly up, but also to drop at some point, so they do have to land on this table. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to make a new object with Shift A. I'm going to make a mesh and a circle. This circle is going to be the size of my table. I'm just going to bring it into the center like this, scale it up, making sure that it's just filling just the entire table, not more, not less, because that also saves us a lot of time masking it later. If like pieces are falling off, you don't have to do that by hand. It's like perfectly masked already. Cool. Now I'm gonna go to edit mode, hit F to give it actually a solid face. Now I apply the scale, and now this object, I'm gonna go on object, visibility, and make it a shadow catcher. It's nothing that is going to change in my viewport here, but once I go to cycles, I can see I cannot actually see this table anymore. It's just going to be the shadow catcher and also collision object. Now it's time to actually give my objects a rigid body simulation, meaning giving it gravity. I already did that with this object. No, I didn't. I already did that with the chessboard. You see, it's a passive rigid body. And what that basically means is that we have in rigid bodies, we have an active one and a passive one. Once it's active, I go to frame number 1, play it. It's just gonna fall into the ground. But I want this to be passive. This is gonna be passive, and also this is gonna be passive, so nothing is gonna happen anymore. But if this object here, let's bring it like over here, if this is going to be a rigid body, an active one, it's just going to fall, but it's going to be stopped by the passive rigid bodies. So it's basically just like a collision. But don't mix this up with collision. It has to be a rigid body and passive. Now, let's bring it back to the ground. Now, what we need to do is giving all my objects here, all the chess pieces. So I'm going to go on the collection of modern chess set. Just going to select them all, making sure that they're all in there. So I'm gonna go find the very first one in the list, which is like this pawn here, and I'm gonna give it the effect I need, which is physics, rigid body, active, convex hull is fine. And now this one has all the attributes I need. Now I'm gonna select all of them, making sure all of them are selected. Yes, they are. But this one is the active one. You can see like this one has like this yellow edge. Those are orange. So this one is the active one. So now I'm going to go on object, rigid body, and copy from active. That means that I copied those attributes to all of the other ones. So I don't have to go to each one individually and select rigid body, active, and so on. Now it's all automatic. So when I select them all now, just as an example, bring them up. Now just play the animation. You can see, okay, they all fell. Awesome, exactly what I need. Now we're going to get to the juicy part where we're actually going to deactivate gravity and make them all spin around while this animation is happening, because yeah, that would be pretty cool to just have it like this, having a CG chessboard. Awesome, great job, but isn't it way cooler to actually have stuff flying around? So let's try that. For that, let's go to scene properties. Under scene properties, there's a few different things we have to adjust. Most importantly, the start and end simulation, the cache, if you will. Usually I would prefer starting on, let's say, -5. So when you go on 0, it already has been going on for 5 frames, just in case one of those cubes was flying in the beginning, so that it actually realigns before the video actually starts. So this is something you can do. By the way, if you turn on the snapping tool on face and rotate and align rotation to target, you can just bring chess pieces wherever you want, and it's always going to be like aligned with your ground. Now here, once you're happy, you can bake your simulation, but we're going to get to that way later in the video. Now if you want to change the gravity, which is going to be very important for this clip, you can do that here. This is like gravity on Earth, and you could manipulate those numbers here. So let's say I'm going to go positive, then you can see our chess pieces are going to fly up. Let's go +1, so we can see it slowly starts to go up. but actually I'm not gonna manipulate the gravity here. I'm actually gonna make my life easier to do that down here, because those numbers are just simpler. I can easily remember gravity 1 is like normal Earth gravity, -1 would be same but the opposite. So it's, for me, it's like easy to remember, so I'm gonna go down to the field weights and do that here. So now I have to figure out the timing of my animation. So I'm gonna, first it just starts, let's say for a second nothing's happening, and now on second number 1, which is 30 frames, I'm gonna animate my gravity. So I hover over gravity, hit I. Now you see this is animated. I have a keyframe here in my graph editor. I'm gonna go a few seconds, let's say 2 seconds in, and make the gravity -0.1 and animate this keyframe. Now you can see that gravity has been animated. And then very important is then, if you want to watch it again, you have to start from the very first frame, because if you don't, it's going to look weird. So make sure to always go to the very first frame and start watching from there. You can always animate or adjust your graphs in case you don't like how fast or slow it's moving. But now I like that. So we can see the gravity is working. Could be a little too strong, so I'm just gonna bring this keyframe just a little closer to 0. And a few seconds in, I'm gonna bring it closer to 1, but in the positive side keyframe again, and just play around with that until you have like the hovering you want. Like right now, it's just blasting out of frame. I can see on this screen how far it actually went. It's way too strong. And this is better, but still not perfect. This is great. And once we add some force fields to this, we might have to change a few of those numbers too, but for now let's just stick with that so we have something to work with. And at some point I just want to gravity to just come back, so I'm gonna go on this, animate this one, animate this back to 1, and they all should just drop down immediately. Amazing. Now it is a little boring the way they're flying up. It's like there's like no complexity, no noise. It's like it just happens all very stiff. I like how they drop in the end, but it's still not what I want. I want them to be rotating, hitting each other, and for that force fields are great. Now there's many different force fields we could use. Usually I start with Shift A you can make a force field. I'm just gonna make this one saying force. And under the physics properties, I can adjust those values. Strength is the most important one. When I turn this on, you can see it just blasts them all out of the shot. So when I go to 10, you can see in the beginning nothing is going to happen, but the moment gravity is gone, they're just going to be blasted away. So I just have to adjust those numbers until I'm happy. And also I can animate those numbers. So let's say I start on -10 and animate this until gravity actually starts here, and here I'm going to have +3. So I have already some noise going on. Also I can turn on the noise amount, and that's going to make it look better. And depending on where you put your force field in space is also going to interact with your objects differently, so keep that in mind. Now if one force field is not enough, you can always just add another one, either the same one force field. You can use wind, vortex is great. Let's try to use turbulence. And always feel free to just copy paste the same force fields to different spots, so you have a little more chaos going on. Alright, once you are happy with your simulation, the way it looks, now it's time to bake it. So go back to your scene properties, and under your rigid body world, go on bake. Depending on your computer, that can take longer or shorter. For me, it was pretty quick. Now we can spend some time on making this scene pretty. The tutorial is pretty much done, but if you want to have some extra tips and tricks on how to make your scenes look real, stay tuned. First of all, we need to light our scene. So I'm gonna have 2 area lights mainly, because when I look at my scene here, I can see that my living room has a bright light from the left and also a light from the right, but not as bright. So that's how I'm gonna light it. So my camera is on this side, so I'm gonna have one area light on this side, turn it towards my chessboard far enough away. Now I'm gonna have another one on the other side. Let's switch to cycles. Now this one has to be brighter, so I'm gonna go in my light settings like this, and this one maybe like this. Another cool trick is you add a new material to your shadow catcher, which is going to be an image texture. Even though we're not going to see the image texture itself, what we're going to use it for is, because it's a shadow catcher, it's just going to reflect the actual video now. This is the actual video onto our objects, which probably won't make a big difference since our objects are not very reflective, but it's still great to use that trick. So with the texture coordinate node, I'm going to project the video from the window to the vector. So now it's like perfectly projected on our model. Here, obviously it doesn't make much sense, but here it does. Just make sure that it's enough frames, no offset, and instead of repeat, we're gonna use mirror. Awesome. And once you're happy with this, this is the final result. Of course, I did some compositing afterwards in After Effects, but generally speaking, that's how you can make an effect like this. Play around with the gravity and use some force fields to give it some more complexity, some little noise, and that's how you can make all kinds of things fly around, which is super cool. I hope this video was helpful, and if you got anything out of it, please hit the like button because that's going to help me a lot. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.